Okay. Hello, hello. Hopefully y'all can hear me. Is this mic working? Yes, it is. Okay, so I've had technical difficulties. I wanted to try my Castle camera. It wasn't working, and then I turns out I had scheduled this using a different option and a different software, and it just wouldn't work. So sorry for the delay. I know we're about 20 minutes behind, but today's live is actually something pretty easy, and I'm hoping that it wouldn't take as long, so you should be okay. Now, today I am going to be showing you how to make a mini bag charm. It's actually a little bag. So I will put the measurements down here because I actually meant to copy and paste it here. So I'm going to put it out down here. And for those just joining me, welcome back to So What, a podcast for the imperfect sewist. So here there are no judgments. If you have questions about sewing, tips and tricks, or anything else, please feel free to ask them during this live. Primarily, I cater to people who are new, who are interested in learning something new, who have never tried sewing before, and just want to see what it's like. So, for the most part, I will be working with my Brother SE600. So it's similar to the SE700 and also similar to the SE400. So that's kind of my Brother machine is the one I primarily work with. If you're thinking about what machine to get, if you don't already have one, I do have a list in my Amazon storefronts to list all the items that I think a beginner sewist will need. So for this project, you will need 3 pieces of fabric, which I've already gone ahead and pre-cut using my Guggenheim scissors. I got the 7-inch precision scissors, and let me just tell you that thing cuts like butter. It is so easy. I absolutely love using it. And then the next thing you will need is a O-ring or a little ring that looks like this. It's just because we're doing a bag charm, obviously you want something that's going to fit in there. And then the last but not the least is you will need the piece of fabric that's going to be used as the handle. So this is 3 1/4 by 1 inch, and I do have my note here. So let me put all the information here. And in the meantime, if you can let me know where you are watching this from, I'd appreciate it. So I actually had come up with a different background for this, and obviously this laid plans. Things did not work out the way I was expecting them to. So it is what it is. And the funny thing is, I spent a solid 3 hours yesterday trying to make sure that I got all this whole thing set up. So I'm kind of a little disappointed, but hopefully it will not dull this live. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me know in the live if you're just joining, where you're joining from. And I'm on the East Coast, so it is currently 4:23 here. And we will be, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we need here. So you need 3 pieces of fabric and measuring 2 1/4 and 3/4 inch. Two. This is a very simple one, so you don't need for the keychain, and you don't need a lot of items to do this. And I want to try to do more more projects like this. One piece. You know, the funny thing is, when I am in my day job, people tell me I type very aggressively, and now I can't even type. I am one of those people that's like, "Duh," before you even see anything. So, yeah. And now I can't type. I think it's because I primarily have a wireless keyboard in here. It actually requires me to type on something that's attached to my screen. Nah, it's okay. All right, so you need 4 items. The first thing is the 3 pieces of fabric cut to 2 3/4 by 2 inches. You need the O-ring, which I've already shown you. You will need an additional piece of fabric cut to 3 1/4, 3 1/2 by 1 inch, and then you will need the stuffing. Um, inside. Okay, so let me talk to you about a few things. So for this one here, my next live is going to be talking about, no, my next podcast is going to be talking about actually achieving professional type looking seams. And before I go into that, I do want to mention the importance of having an iron and an ironing board. So I have this mini iron here, which I primarily use for smaller projects. It's an HTV runt, and I can put my link to my favorite things for beginner sewists. But anyways, this thing here is really important for me. Here's why. When I'm sewing, sometimes I don't want to have to lug a bigger iron or get something else that really is going to take extra time to heat up and all of that. But this allows me the flexibility of doing like all the small projects. And because this channel is primarily for those who are learning to sew, who are new to sewing, and who want to learn something new, it actually helps to make sure that I can stay consistent and I can show you how to do things. So there are three key things that are very important when you're sewing as a beginner. And one of them is having the right tools. The second one is having, the right type of thread and cut it, well, the right type of iron, because you do need to be able to make sure your seams are very crisp. And the third one is just having the right directions and guidance. And all of these things are very important, especially if you're starting out as a beginner sewist. Now, I do want to address something from my last live, because I did get feedback from someone who said, because I had a must have and things that are just not necessarily a required item. They're things that you don't necessarily, it's a gimmick, right? Now, when I mentioned pink and shears, and you know who you are, so if you're watching this video, I hope you've seen this. When I mentioned pink and shears, I did not mean that you don't need it at all. What I was trying to get at is you don't need it as a beginner sewist. Most of the things that I have listed in that live was primarily for those who are just starting out. Let's say it's your first, second, third, fourth, or fifth video or lesson. You don't need pink and shears as you're starting out. Obviously, as you go along, you become more seasoned and you're doing more sewing projects. Yes, pink and shears do come in handy, and especially if you want to start sewing clothes and different things. I have a good pair of Guggenheim pink and shears here, and I have a good pair of Diner pink and shears. So I am not anti pink and shears. And as a matter of fact, I'm about to make a project for my backsplash there that's going to have the name of the podcast. So I am not anti that. What I'm trying to say is, if you're new, you don't need to spend a lot of money on things that are not necessarily going to add a lot of value to your sewing experience from the get-go. So it will obviously over time be important, but to start, I don't believe you do. And like I said, I've been sewing since I was like since I was about 8. And the truth is, I didn't start using pink and shears until sometime in the last, I want to say 5-6 years. Regular scissors, my Geiger scissors, I've had now for almost 10 years. They work great. But pink and shears themselves, I didn't start using it until I started venturing out into more things. And initially, I bought it because I didn't want to have to invest in a serger, and having pink and shears is actually a good way to do that. But over time, I realized, hey, you know what? I can get the serger. It's just as good. You can get a good experience with everything. And pink and shears just adds to that experience, in addition to the fact that I have some patterns on my website that, and the website is isewithjoy.com. I'll put the link here if you're interested in picking up some easy, beginner-friendly patterns. And they're free. I have some free patterns as well. That helped me, but just from the get-go, not necessarily important. So today we are actually going to be focusing more on a very simple project that I feel like anybody who is starting out and can sew a straight line should be able to do this. I just realized I didn't get my stuffing ready, so I will get it. So now let me just show you guys. This is what I use for my stuffing, and it is a pillowcase. Well, not a pillowcase, a regular pillow. This is a wicked old pillow, and I over time, like whenever I have an old pillow, I have, and instead of tossing it or contributing to waste, I do just cut it up and start using the stuffing for projects I'm working on. So this is a great way to also save yourself some fabric scraps. I've had a live here where I talked about some of the important things to sew, or materials for when you're learning to sew. You don't need to go out and buy all new fabrics. You don't need to do any of that stuff. What I will recommend is use the things you already have in the house. The essential tools you will need: a seam ripper, a pair of good scissors, some of the things I listed last week during the live. But for something like this, if you have a project like this, you really can get away with just using stuffing. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my iron heated up with my mini iron. And like I said, I prefer to use it, especially when I'm working with smaller projects, because it just means that I don't have to spend a lot of time doing all that, too much. And I am a little hungry, so I will get started with my protein shake. Hope you don't mind. This is the reality. This is me. Okay. All right. So I have this little thread catcher here. So if you're wondering what this is, it's just a pattern weight with thread catchers there, and I use it for collecting fabric threads. So, like I said, I need you need three pieces of a 2 3/4 by 2 inch pieces of fabric. So this is all three of them. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to take the first two pieces and then just line them up just like so. And what you're going to do is go ahead and sew a straight line, leaving about an eighth of an inch seam allowance. So you don't really need a big seam allowance for this one. And so you're just going to go, if you can't do an eighth of an inch, a quarter of an inch is also going to be workable. So let's go ahead and do this. I will show you my sewing machine just as I go. And I usually say this when I'm teaching a class. If you don't know how to do the measurements, the plate on your sewing machine does come with the measuring plate. It has measurements, so you can actually see what it should look like or where things should go. So I've already gone ahead and done that. So again, this is a simple project that shouldn't take up too much time. And another shout out to my little Geiger, Little Giant. I love this. I just got a whole bunch of Geiger, I keep saying Geiger, a whole bunch of Guggenheim scissors, and I absolutely love them. I think I say Geiger because I had my Geiger scissors for like almost 10 years and I used it for everything, and I'm getting into something different. So, hey. So now we've gone ahead and sewn this together. We open up the slit right here, and then just iron it flat. So again, another important thing is making sure that whenever you do any kind of sewing, the sewing work looks very professional. So we've done this, you've attached this to this, and we're going to take the other side. So I'm going to designate this part here as my middle piece. Okay, so I'm just going to use a fabric pen here and just put M on the inside so you know what side. And then I'm going to take these other piece here. So if I was working with different color fabrics, this will be the different color. The middle piece will be the different color, and I would have the other piece here. So it would always be right sides facing each other. I mean, wrong sides facing each other. I said right sides, wrong sides facing each other, because when you open it up, you want the right side to be on the outside. So you're going to take this. Again, the seam is on the inside. The seam we just created is on the inside for the first one. And we're going to take this and it is right sides facing each other. Hold on. I want to measure, put it together. Okay, so it is right sides facing each other. And then you're just going to go ahead and sew this together so that you have both your seams on the inside. So again, you will do another eighth of an inch. Back. I don't know if a lot of people do back stitches. Like, I still do it, and the funny thing is my machine automatically does it too. I don't know why I still do it, but if you're someone who does not necessarily care for them, you don't have to do them. So now we've attached both pieces with the M here that just says the middle piece. So this is project should start looking like. Again, I told you this is an easy one that we should be able to accomplish and get all done in less than a half hour. So now you have this. We're going to go ahead now and iron this flat, the center pieces. Remember, you just need, because it's such a small seam allowance, you're not going to have a lot of room here. So we're going to iron that flat here. So I'm going to get my ironing board and go ahead and just iron that flat. So I love this this iron. It's a mini heat press. It's actually a vinyl for vinyl projects. And so if you have a Cricut and you have anything that you use that for, this is a good way to get the vinyl. Like anytime you have vinyl or heat needed for your vinyl projects, this is a good one to have. So I'm just opening this up so I can sew it. I can iron it flat. Is this a requirement? No, but it does keep your project looking more professional and have things looking more crisp. So I do recommend it. My M is going to disappear because I'm using a heat source, and it is a heat raisable pen. So that's going to disappear now. Let's see. I just got a message. I'm not even sure what it is. It's saying there's an error message, but hopefully you can continue to see this live. So we'll go ahead and continue. So now this is what everything looks like put together. This is the right side. This is the wrong side. So the next thing we're going to do is fold this. So we're going to fold this like so, and then fold each individual piece into towards you. So the first part I'm going to fold in for approximately a quarter of an inch. And you can use a ruler if you want to use one. It's always a good idea to use one if you're starting out new. If not, I can kind of eyeball it, which, and I also have my little thing here, my little cutting room mat. So it's easy for me to do that. So I'm going to eyeball it, and then I'm going to fold this in a quarter of an inch. So basically it is facing the side where I have my seams, the open style seams. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So just eyeball it and do another quarter of an inch on the inside. Okay. So now everything should be laying flat and look just like this. So you have this flap here that's inside. You have your seams that you've ironed flat both sides, and then you have another quarter inch right there. So now the next thing you're going to do is take both pieces and put it together. So what this should look like is something like this. See, just like that, and the seams should be matching on either side once you, as long as you folded it right. And we're going to go ahead and sew a straight line. Again, remember, this is a beginner friendly project. So as long as you can sew a straight line, you can absolutely do this. So just sew a straight line down each side. I'm going to move my ironing board there. I do have a video of how I made that ironing board. It was a very easy, a simple one. Here within my sewing room, I just got a board from Michaels and just went went down with it. I used hold on. I used a piece of wood, like of the board, and then and sure you could probably get the board from somewhere else. And then I wrapped it up with aluminum foil because obviously I knew over time I'll be using heat on this. And then I used some batting to cover it, and used the stapler just to put everything together with my fabric. So, and it's a good cotton cover, so of cotton fabric, because I wanted to make sure I could use it over time. Okay, so everything should start coming together now. You are almost done. This is, again, like I said, a simple and easy project that doesn't take a lot of time, but I'm going through every step. Usually when I find that usually when I'm doing a lot, when I'm watching YouTube or TikTok videos, I see a lot of people going through these steps and you don't necessarily know how much or what work goes into it. So this is an easy way to just watch this and then go through it and make it yourself. So you don't have to go through a fast video or whatever. You can just, follow along. So now it's open on the inside, and this is what it looks like with everything put together. It looks like a little pocket. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and put my finger in there and then just kind of make a triangle. Okay, so just create a triangle, just like so on one side. And I'm going to open up my fabric. You don't have to, I just choose to because it makes my life easier. If you don't want to, actually, you know what, we're not going to do that because this is supposed to be easy, so I don't overcomplicate anything. And then just go ahead and measure about another let me get my ruler here. You're going to measure about a half an inch from the top to a location. So you just take this and measure a half inch. And you'll do the same thing. So I'm just going to draw a straight line across there because I want to make sure that that's what I'm sewing. And I'm going to take that and match it on the other side as well. So both sides will be marked at a half inch point. And since I have this here, I'll do that and do this. But you're basically just making a half inch. And then what you're going to do is now go ahead and sew a straight line across both sides. So where you've marked the half inch, you're just going to sew and you'll do the same thing on the other side where you have your marking. It's my back stitching thing that I do often. But okay, so now we have that, and we have gone ahead and measured a 1/2 inch, and we have sewn that down. So this is what it should start looking like. Kind of like has like the two tails on the side here. I'm going to go ahead now and just take that off since I already have this here and it cuts very well. I'm just going to cut that, making sure not to cut my threads or the areas I have just sewn. Okay, so I'm just going to take that, and believe it or not, we're almost done now. So you're going to take this now and turn it inside out. So this is now what it should start to look like a little bag with a base underneath. Okay, so this is what you should be seeing, and this is what your bag should look like. Now to the moment of truth. We're gonna go ahead now and start stuffing. So like I said, I use pillow stuffing because I don't want to waste, and I don't want, I know that this is just a little bag charm, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take this a little bit and stuff it a little at a time. You can stuff it as much as you want if you want it to be very puffy, or you can just not stuff it too much. You can do whatever makes your heart happy. This is a beginner friendly project, and it's a mini keychain. So my goal here is to make sure that you do not feel like you have to achieve perfection when you start out sewing. That comes with time. That comes with doing a lot of projects. I don't think I need that. Comes with doing a lot of projects. It comes with a lot of things, but don't get yourself all stressed out because sewing is supposed to be fun. Sewing should be enjoyable. Sewing should be relaxing. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece. So basically, to achieve this piece here, it's a three and a quarter. I mean, and a half by 1 inch. And all I did was I folded it in half, ironed it flat, and then I folded each part of the flap into each other. So that's why it looks like this. So it was folded first in half like so, and then each part was folded into the middle, and I have this just here. So what I will do now is take this piece and put it right in here on one end of my charm. Remember that we're going to be, I just want to make sure I get that in there. We're going to be sewing, adding a ring so that you don't accidentally earring. Now you do have the option to sew this straight down. Actually, you know what? I will sew it straight down just to make it look a little more cleaner. So I'm going to take this and sew it right down the middle. And don't forget, I always use black threads. Don't come for me saying that I should have found a matching thread. I always use black threads. Why? Because it just makes it easier to see when I am doing something virtually. So this is why I use black threads. So I think I've gone off. Again, we are not looking for perfection here. We're just trying to do something fun and simple and easy. And that's it. Okay, so I went a little off on my straight line here. It's a little weird sewing sideways, but it still looks good, at least to me. Okay. All right, so we'll take this piece now that's been sewn down, and we're going to go back here and put it in to one corner. And then I'm going to take a pen. If you don't have a pen, you can also use a clip, a sewing clip, and then just stuff things to make sure that things are still fully stuffed. I'm trying to see which way is my left and which way is my right. This is my my right. On the screen, it looks different. And then I'm going to take the ring that I mentioned, the O-ring, and just put it in there. And then next, I'm going to just hang it over like so and put it in. So this is what it should start looking like. And it's a bag charm bag. All right, and I'm going to take another pen and then go ahead and hold that down. So believe it or not, your bag charm is almost done. So now you're going to go ahead and use a zigzag stitch. So this is an opportunity to use another simple but decorative stitch on your project. So use a zigzag stitch and just finish it off on the top there as you put it all down. So I'm going to go ahead. I want to move this a little bit and select my zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. And I want to open it up quite a bit. I'm just adjusting the width, okay? And then I'm going to sew it down. I'll make sure my needle catches everything. Okay. Cut that, but it's cut it at an awkward angle. So let's go ahead and start this over again. So the beauty of having lives is that if you mess up live as well. So let's get this done again. Okay. There we go. And be careful with your O-ring to make sure that it doesn't mess up or get caught under your needle. And make sure that it catches everything that you need it to catch. So now I'm going to go ahead and get rid of my hang threads, everything. And believe it or not, this is done, like I said, in less than 30 minutes. And I want to come back and do more smaller projects like this because I feel like it makes life easier for those who are just starting out and who want to learn how to do something simple and ask questions. So I'm going to be doing these lives on Sundays. So if you have a few minutes and you have questions, you can always come on here and ask, especially if it's about a project that I've done in the past. That would be helpful. Anyways, I've gotten rid of my of the hang threads, and this is what my little bag charm looks like. How cute is that? You can hang this on anything, hang it on your purse. It's just meant to be a bag charm, or you can attach it as a keychain to something else. Now, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead, remember, safety first, and just turn off my iron. I want to see if anyone has any questions so far. For those watching, thank you so much. I do appreciate it. If there are topics or simple things that you would like to see going forward, please be sure to let me know. Again, if you have questions about, I did mention I will leave my list of beginner-friendly for Sewist. I will leave that here so that you can easily pick it up from my storefront if you have any questions. And again, listen, a lot of things you're not supposed to. Basically, you want to focus on the things that are actually going to help you along on your sewing journey. So while I do think it's great to be able to, start out and just get everything done and hit the ground running, I don't think you need to spend too much time or too much money paying for a lot of things. I think it's more important that you focus on, building out your skill sets and taking care of, like learning to do a straight stitch, learning your machine, learning about your tension and things like that. That is actually what's more important than focusing on buying all these notions. Because believe it or not, if you're like me, eventually you'll have a lot of notions and then you're just going to say, why do I have these items? What am I using them for? Especially if you don't use them on a daily basis. You need just the basic things that you will be using more often. And that's what this beginner friendly list is for. Don't go getting everything there. Just go ahead and look at it, see what items you may not already have, and then perhaps consider those items as you move forward. So I'm going to share this list. How do I do that? I can copy a link and I am going to put it here in the chat. If you have any other sewing related questions, I love the fact that people ask the questions later down the line. So if you're watching this on a later date and you have sewing related questions, be sure to just leave it in the chat. I will be more than happy to answer them. Sometimes it might take me a bit because I've noticed that YouTube does not always show me the comments or questions right away. I'm not entirely sure why, or maybe it's just that I don't know where to look when I go in there. But either ways, I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have as you continue on your sewing journey. Again, remember, sewing should be fun, sewing should be creative, and you are not required to achieve perfection, especially not as a beginner sewist. Thanks for joining me. Have a wonderful day.